Mr. Speaker! Good afternoon, members. Trust everyone had a nice lunch. We're now about to start the afternoon session, and the House is now in session. Before we pick up where we left off, and we were this morning on the second item for today, and the Premier, as the lead minister, had presented it, and the opposition, his shadow finance minister, was about to reply. Before I do that, I'd just like to acknowledge the visitors in our gallery. You may have seen earlier this week in the newspaper where the headline read that Belize beat Brazil in the World Cup. And everybody said, look, heard the response of everybody? You know, the headlines don't always predict what the real story is. The real story was, yes, Belize beat Brazil in the World Cup in cricket. Here in the cricket, so everybody's see the reaction of everybody? Well, they beat Brazil in the cricket tournament that's taking place here in Bermuda right now. And part of the delegation that's here supporting Belize is the former High Commissioner who served for Belize in both in England and Guatemala. So she's here visiting with her daughter and her son-in-law because their son is actually playing for the team. So we trusted, besides watching cricket while you're here, you get out and enjoy our island. And that I'm sure you'll enjoy what you find that Bermuda has to offer in its hospitality and the kindness and niceness of our people. So welcome to Parliament. You know it? Now, I know you come to relax, so you don't have to sit here too long with us, but we just want to acknowledge that you are in the country, and we wish you, I can't say I wish your team wins, because we want Bermuda to win, but I wish your team does well. Okay, and with that, let us move on, and the Shadow Minister, would you like to make your presentation?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon to you, and thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mention your name. It's, the High Commissioner is Ms. Pamela Palmer. That's right. Thank you. Okay. Go right ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, of course, welcome to our guests. Mm-hmm. Thank you to the Honorable Premier and Finance Minister for his presentation on the Pensions Increase Amendment Act. He alluded to the delicate balance in managing these pensions funds, and we certainly in the opposition appreciate that balance between reforming these funds, making sure they are fully funded and can work appropriately for the beneficiaries, but also providing the level of benefits that are required. And so certainly I would say conceptually we support this approach, and I have a couple of questions that I know the Premier will be able to answer for us, because when we look around, we know that health insurance costs are up for everybody, and that's one reason why people will need these higher pension payouts. The cost of living in general is up. As you know, Mr. Speaker, the One Bermuda Alliance called for a long time for the reform in the public sector pension funds, and so of course we did support it when it came. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, it's a reminder to the listening public what we're talking about today is what's called the PSSF, Public Sector Superannuation Fund, and it's for the government employees. There is also social insurance or the contributory pension fund. We in the One Bermuda Alliance are patiently waiting to hear more from the government about the plans for reforming that, which is more applicable to the general population, not to take away from our support and principle of this bill before us today, but to provide that contextual information. I would say, Mr. Speaker, probably the one concern that we have, and I know that the Premier talked about how these increases were reviewed by the various advisory boards and the actuaries. And I know when we did the original reform, he talked about that if the reform worked out, there should be enough headroom in the funds to support a future increase, which is what we were seeing here. I still am concerned because we're not privy to the details of the analysis. And we know, Mr. Speaker, one thing we know is the population is declining, the working population is declining, the demographic trend is not in our favor, and it's not in the favor of these funds. And we've heard recently that perhaps up to a third of the civil service could be retiring in a very short period of time. And you can imagine what that is going to do to the balance of these funds to fund the public servants' pensions. So I think one question that we have for the Premier is what can he tell us about what options were considered to ensure that the headroom remains for the safety of these pension funds for all of the recipients over the long term. I know he alluded to this is a one-time increase, so of course they must feel that they've covered the bases on that, but perhaps maybe 5% this year and 5% next year might have been a more prudent approach to take, especially, like I said, we've heard that there could be a lot of retirements coming up and a real change in the balance of the recipients of the fund. And I think my other question, Mr. Speaker, is he noted that the payments won't be made until October, retroactive until April, and I'm sure we would all appreciate an explanation as to why that delay of, I guess that would be 6 months, Mr. Speaker. I think I know, but I'd rather hear directly from the Premier. So with that, Mr. Speaker, like I said, we do indicate our general support of this to support people with the rising health costs, rising costs of living, but we do have some concerns about the future stability of the funds. We think it's a very dynamic situation with the demographic balance. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to make a contribution at this time? MP Swan?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to thank the Premier and Finance Minister for bringing these measures. I declare my interest. I am a pensioner. I'm not a retiree yet, but I know I can speak very confidently on behalf of those former colleagues of mine who would have served in the civil service, who may have started when I first came back to Bermuda in 1980 and 83 and 4 and the like to join. And some of them have been there retired. Some of them were very senior to me. And to think that 12 years without 12 years, and now we're seeing this increase. I know while there are some that want it to be more, and understandably, because the price of cheese doesn't stay to where it was back pre-COVID. It moves up, and it's very difficult for persons to make ends meet. Many seniors are making choices between medication and food. So the increase is welcomed, and I would say anything that could work towards making sure that it's done in line with the cost of living would be welcomed, I'm sure. We will look to make sure, because we are the government that has made sure that with regards to social insurance, that is tied to cost of living. Unlike the shadow minister's party that went in power actually didn't do that, and so we had to play catch up. So, we had to, and not to make light of catch-up, but some folks, because of that, had to have just catch-up on sandwiches. We need more than catch-up on our sandwiches. We need, a little bit more substance than meat. So thank you, Mr. Premier, for providing some support for seniors and those who have served this country ever so well.
Thank you, MP Swan. Does any other member wish to make a contribution at this time? None other? The Minister of Youth, Social Development and Seniors, Minister Furby.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we should be proud of this bill that is coming to the House today. We all should be proud because we know someone in our lives who would have worked as a public servant who would benefit from the superannuation 10% increase. I remember, Mr. Speaker, a senior coming to me. They had stopped me on the street and they said, You guys are making changes to the social insurance pension benefits, and you're giving yearly increases that way. What about us? What about us? And we thought, I thought about it. I know the team was working on something. We knew that we as a government wanted to stabilize the fund before we can actually offer an increase, Mr. Speaker. And while a 10% increase may not seem like much for some, it is definitely the responsible thing to do, Mr. Speaker, because on one hand, we could give zero. We could give absolutely nothing. We could give zero of an increase. But knowing what is available to us in the fund, the team has taken a good deep dive and look at this to see what we can responsibly offer to are persons over the age of 65 who benefit from the superannuation. And so, again, Mr. Speaker, I'm just standing on my feet to let the country know that I support this bill. We all should be proud about this bill in the contributions that will be now given to persons over the age of 65. We are a government who listens, particularly thinking again about the seniors who have come forward to say, what about us, with the increases that we have been giving in the social insurance pension. And now today, we can proudly say, this is where we are today, and this is what we are able to offer our seniors who benefit from the superannuation benefit. With that said, Mr. Speaker, again, a promise made, a promise kept. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Minister Adams, would you like to make a contribution?
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Yes, that's right. That's right. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to voice my support of this bill and thank the Premier for bringing this forward. At first glance, this bill appears to be relatively straightforward. It's an increase, a 10% increase in pensions for retired public officers and members of the legislature. Very important stuff. But, Mr. Speaker, when you look at it, I think it's more important than that, and I think the minister who spoke before me hit the nail on the head, because it represents a promise kept. It represents a responsible government. And I can certainly say it represents the values of PLP. Mr. Speaker, when I think about this bill, I think about the retired teacher that spent decades in the classroom shaping the minds of our children. I think about the firefighter and the prison officer who often missed out on nights, weekends, and holidays because they felt a sense of duty. I think about the the firefighter who would often get calls in the middle of the night to address or put themselves in harm's way to simply make safe of complete strangers. And you see, I don't believe any of those individuals entered the public service expecting to be wealthy. They served because they believe in something bigger than themselves. In fact, they still believe in something bigger than themselves. And so in return, this government then says that they deserve more than our thanks. They deserve dignity and a sense of security. They deserve a government that honors its commitment. And so that is why, again, I am proud to be PLP. Mr. Speaker, what makes today's debate particularly meaningful is that this increase has not come by happenstance or by accident, but rather because this government had the courage to do the difficult work first. So last year in this honorable House, we debated significant reforms to the PSSF. Those reforms were not easy. They required leadership, difficult conversations, very difficult conversations. But they were necessary conversations because we recognized that the PSSF was on an unsustainable path. But instead of ignoring those problems or kicking the can down the road, as they say, this government under this Minister of Finance acted. We stabilized the PSSF. We put it on a path of longer-term sustainability. And so, Mr. Speaker, today we are simply delivering on a commitment that we made to the people. And so I say with a sense of pride, because responsible governing is not simply about making promises. It's about putting yourself in a position to keep them. Yes. Mr. Speaker, it's important we understand that balancing the books is not the destination, but rather it allows us to do more for our people. And so today, as a government, we are proud to be discussing a bill that will improve the lives of the very people who spent decades improving ours. And so, yes, this bill looks to increase pensions by 10%, but I believe it delivers even more. It delivers reassurance. It tells our retirees that this country has not forgotten about them. It tells today's public servants. In fact, I saw some on my way here and told them that I was talking about something that will impact them in the future, that their service will continue to be valued. And it demonstrates that when this government says it will take difficult decisions today in order to deliver outcomes tomorrow, those are not empty words. They are promises that we intend to keep. So that is why I am proud to support this bill. That is why I am proud to stand with this government. And that is why I am proud to be PLP. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Does any other member wish to make a contribution at this time? None? Premier?
Mr. Speaker, it is remarkable how the opposition gets so exercised when people support good legislation. And so I'm happy. Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm so happy that they're over there making their snide comments, but the reality is that the 3,700 public officers who are getting a pension increase has been frozen since they were in government would know and recognize the hard work that is being done. And so whatever noises or prescriptions they may wish to make, Mr. Speaker, the reality is that it is this government that is delivering a public sector pension increase. It is this government that has delivered consecutive increases in social insurance for the seniors of this country. It is this government that has delivered no co-pays for annual examinations for the seniors and those persons that are on here. Oh, they keep on making noise, Mr. Speaker. The more noise they make, I'm going to remind them of our record. Do they want to listen? No, they don't want to listen, Mr. Speaker.
You're talking to the chair.
Oh, don't worry, I got you. So, Mr. Speaker, there were a few questions. Well, Mr. Speaker, I certainly want to make sure that the Honorable Opposition Whip knows I don't take my marching orders from him. So I will continue to make sure that I speak as the record of this government, Mr. Speaker. Yes. Because it seems as though if some persons want to forget, and the contributions from members on this side have sent a clear picture, that we are actually delivering on the promises of which we have made. So we can, reflect back earlier on this session where there were questions about the priorities of government and whether or not government can do more than one thing at one time. I think that we are demonstrating that we can, Mr. Speaker, and in making sure that we repaired the pension fund and put it on a sustainable footing going forward, something that has been long spoken about but delivered underneath this particular government through long and painstaking negotiations with unions and others. It enables us to come to this point. It enables a $2 billion liability to remove from our balance sheet because of the fact that we have made these changes. It enables ratings agencies to upgrade our ratings and to look at us and say they're actually making the broader macro reforms that have been promised for so long, but that are actually now being delivered. So, Mr. Speaker, it is important that the people in this chamber, the members, honorable members of this chamber, and the people of this country recognize that we are able to deliver this 10% pension increase to 3,700 public sector pensioners because of the fact that we have been sound stewards of the public purse, Mr. Speaker. That is the reason why. So there's a few questions that came up, Mr. Speaker. One of the questions that came up is, why not do 5% and 5%? Well, I mean, that's his opinion. We decided to go with 10. The law requires us to consult with the Public Service Superannuation Board, and we do it from the perspective of the long-term health of the fund. And so we have a policy prescription that over the 40-year time horizon of the fund, we want it to be at least at a 90% funded ratio. And so from that particular perspective, that's where we find ourselves in this. And so I hope that members of, public officers listening saying that if they were in government, they would not get 10%. But when we're in government, we will give them the 10% of which they deserve.
Point of order.
I'm just misleading the House. That's not what we said. That is exactly not. I asked the question. I asked how they considered it. I asked how they said it. I didn't say what we would or wouldn't do. We don't have all that information, and that was the information I was soliciting. So I would invite the Premier to retract that incorrect statement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Premier, the member saying that the statement was incorrect.
Mr. Speaker, I will not retract the statement because I firmly heard that honorable member says, did they consider 5 and 5? So I'm going to make my own imputation.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. He said, they said we would do 5 and 5 and not do the 10, and that is absolutely not what was said, Mr. Speaker, and that is important for the record, and I am very upset that the Premier continues to misrepresent my comments about the health and safety of our public servants. Thank you.
The member insisted that he did not say 5 and 5.
Mr. Speaker, the honorable member certainly said 5 and 5. I heard it. The public heard it. Everyone heard it. Even he admitted it.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. The Premier is intentionally misleading because I asked if they considered. I didn't say what we would or wouldn't do. I asked what he considered and the information that led to that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So you're saying that you asked if they considered half and half, or you didn't say 50-50?
I asked if they were. I asked if they considered an option like that and how they arrived at that conclusion, Mr. I did not say, Mr. Speaker, the OBA would only do 5 and 5. The Premier is putting words in my mouth that were not said.
My clarification here is whether you said the Premier, the opposition would do 5 and 5, or that you throw 5 and 5 out as a suggestion. Because the members are saying that they heard 5 and 5.
A question if they considered.
Okay, that's all I needed. So, Mr. Premier, he's saying that they did not say 5 and 5 is what they would do. They threw it as an example of something that could have been considered.
Mr. Speaker, so thank you so much. I appreciate your guidance. So in my opinion, Mr. Speaker.
I'm trying to clarify so we don't go back and forth.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the only person who's going back and forth is that honorable member, Mr. Speaker. Because in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, if he were in the chair, then he would not have given the same increase that this government's given. That is my opinion.
Wait.
Impugning a proper motive, Mr. Speaker.
Let's put this to rest. Here's how we put this to rest. In that, what the Premier just said, that if someone else was in the chair, they could have given a different amount. That's basically what he said. He said, you may have decided to give 12% or 14%. He just said you wouldn't have done his amount. That's all. He didn't say less or no. He just said you would have done a different amount. So trying to get us from jumping up and down now.
Mr. Speaker, it is amazing to me, never ending. That the Shadow Minister of Finance.
We can move forward.
That the Shadow Minister of Finance can dish but cannot take.
No.
I'm with you, Mr. Speaker. This is debating. This is what we do in this honorable House, Mr. Speaker. It is a rhetorical device and flourishes. The honorable member said, did you consider X, Y, and Z? I've told the honorable member what we actually decided on and the basis of which we decide on, and in my opinion, they may have done something else, and it is perfectly in keeping with the record, Mr. Speaker. Let us remember what they did when they were in government, where they made seniors wait 5 years for a pension increase and told them money doesn't grow on trees. So that is the historical basis. It fits into their governing philosophy, and today we heard whether or not we want to make it less.
Mr. Speaker. The Premier is referring to the Premier is misleading the House because he's referring to the OBA's governance philosophy. Our philosophy is fiscal responsibility for social responsibility and striking an appropriate balance. And as an example of that, Mr. Speaker, is when the OBA came into government, there was no money to pay the civil servants, and they had to take a loan to do that. That was the legacy that they picked up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, but they also found $100 million for a boat race. So we understand the priorities, Mr. Speaker. And every single time that the honourable member tries to rewrite history, we on this side will remind him. Because the One Bermuda Alliance did make pensioners in this country wait for 5 years before a pension increase. They did, Mr. Speaker, say that money does not grow on trees. And now today we heard the suggestions that maybe it would not be as big as the one of which we've given. So the public officers that are listening, the retirees that are listening, everyone knows and understands the difference between the philosophy of this government versus that government, Mr. Speaker. And here's the point. We are delivering. As you would have heard, the reason why we do the work to put the public books in order is to make sure that we can deliver this. The reason why we do the work to ensure that we get ratings upgrades and changes to our pension system to remove unfunded liabilities is so that we can give pension increases to our retirees, Mr. Speaker. That is where we are. That is what we are doing today, Mr. Speaker. So I'm grateful that members opposite are in somewhat support of this. But I'm happy to know that the public officers listening remember, recognize, and understand which government is on their side. And it absolutely helps which party is on their side. Because it actually helps, Mr. Speaker. Because there was a second question that had said, can you explain the delay in the payout? Actually, I can explain the delay in the payout, Mr. Speaker. And the reason why there is a delay in the payout is because we have a compensation and benefits unit, which does have limited staff. And in the months of April, May, June, July, August, and September, Mr. Speaker, they are processing increases to public officer salaries as a result of the agreement that we made with the unions. So not only are we increasing the salaries for public officers currently today, but we are also increasing the pension benefits for the retired public officers. And so, as members said, whether those are police officers or former nurses or former teachers or former prison officers, hardworking public servants, even the retired clerk to the legislature who was here before today, Mr. Speaker, will all benefit from this government's due diligence and work to make sure we balance the book and to deliver this pension increase today. So with those comments, Mr. Speaker, I believe I've answered all the question, and I move that the bill be committed.
Thank you, Premier. Deputy Speaker, would you like to assume the chair?
Good afternoon, members. We are now in Committee of the Whole on the bill entitled, I can't hear myself, on the bill entitled Pensions Increase Amendment Act 2026. I call on the Minister and the Finance Minister and Premier, sorry.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move that the House take under consideration Clause 1.
It has been moved that we consider Clause 1. Are there any objections for that? There are no objections. Continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Clause 1 is pretty simple. It provides citation for the Act, and the Act may be cited as the Pensions Increase Amendment Act 2026. And I sincerely doubt there'll be any objection on that, so I move that Clause 1 be approved.
It has been moved that Clause 1 be approved. Are there any objections? There are none. So moved. Continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I move to Clause 2. As you'd be aware, it is submitted to the clerk to the legislature early this morning. Share with the opposition that there are amendments. So I'll read through Clause 2, if I may. Do you need another copy?
Yes, I do. I left it on my desk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Continue.
Sorry, thank you very much,
Yes.
Madam Chair. Clause 2 repeals and replaces Section 2 of the Pensions Increase Act 1972. Clause 2 is the main clause of the bill. It repeals and replaces Section 2 of the Pensions Increase Act 1972. The new section does provide for a 10% increase in pensions payable under the Public Service Superannuation Act 1981, including any act repealed by that act, and under the Ministers and Members of the Legislature Salaries and Pensions Act 1975. As we note, Madam Chair, there is an amendment, and can I move the amendment at this time?
It has been moved that we consider the amendment at this time. Are there any objections? There are none. Continue.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, I move that Clause 2 be amended in the proposed new Section 2.1 of the Pensions Increase Act 1972 by deleting the words to 31 March 2027. That's the quote, is written there. And the purpose of this amendment is made clear that the 10% pension increase is effective from the 1st of April 2026 and is not limited to the period ending the 31st of March 2027. As amended, the relevant part of the proposed new Section 2.1 would provide that the rate of pension shall, with effect from the 1st of April 2026, be increased by 10%.
Thank you. Are there any other members who wish to speak to this clause? There are none. Yes, please.
And that's preamble. I'll do that in the preamble.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the amendment be approved.
It has been moved that the amendment be approved. Are there any objections? There are none.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to go on, Clause 2 also makes clear the increase does not apply to ex gratia payments made under the Ex Gratia Payments Act, and that I move that Clause 2, as amended, be approved and stand part of the bill.
It has been moved that Clause 2, as amended, be approved and stand as part of the bill. Are there any objections? There are none.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move that we take under consideration Clause 3.
It has been moved that we consider Clause 3 of this bill. Are there any objections to that? There are none. Continue.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Clause 3, repeal Section 3 of the Pensions Increase Amendment and Suspension Act 2014. This is necessary to allow the new Section 2 of the Principal Act, as amended by this bill, to operate.
Okay. You done? Okay. Are there any other persons who wish to speak to Clause 3? There are none. Minister?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Clause 3 be approved.
It has been moved that Clause 3 be approved. Any objections? There are none.
I was about to tease you, so I need to give you some red. That light blue is overpowering, but it's
No,
okay.
thank you. Very happy.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I now will ask the preamble be approved, but I do have an amendment to the preamble, if I may.
Yes. It has been moved that we consider the amendment to the preamble. Are there any objections?
Thank you. I now move the preamble be amended by deleting the words "one time" and deleting the words to 31 March 2027. And the purpose of this amendment is to align the preamble with the amendment made to Clause 2, and it makes clear that the bill provides a 10% increase effective from the 1st of April 2026, and the increase is not being described as a one-time increase or an increase limited to the period ending the 31st of March 2027.
Does anybody wish to speak to the amendment to the preamble? There being no persons who wish to speak to it, Minister? Premier? Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I move that the amendment to the preamble be approved.
It has been moved that the amendment to the preamble be approved. Are there any objections? There are none. So moved.
Thank you. I move the preamble as amended be approved.
It has now been moved that the preamble as amended be approved. Are there any objections? There are none.
Thank you, Madam.
So moved and approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the bill be reported to the House as amended.
It has been moved that the bill be reported to the House as amended. Are there any objections to that? There are none. So moved.
Daphne, you good?
Yes, I am.
Members, Are there any objections to the bill entitled the Pensions Increase Amendment Act 2026 being reported to the House as amended? There are none. The bill has been reported as amended. Members, I believe that brings us to the last item, or that was the last item, rather, that was going to be done on the order paper for today. So the third readings can be done at this time.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Standing Order 21 be suspended to enable me to move the bill entitled the Bermuda Immigration and Protection Amendment Act 2026 be now read the third time by its title only.
Are there any objections to the bill being read a third time by title only? There are none. Continue, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill be now read the third time by its title only and passed.
The bill is read a third time by title only and is now passed. Thank you. Come here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that Standing Order 21 be suspended to enable me move that the bill entitled the Pensions Increase Amendment Act 2026 be now read for the third time by its title only.
Are there any objections to the bill being read by title only? There are none.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I move that the bill entitled the Pensions Increase Amendment Act 2026 be now read for a third time by its title only and pass.
The bill has been read a third time by title only and is now passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have another matter in front of you at the moment?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that Standing Order 14 be suspended to enable me to introduce a bill to the House.
Are there any objections to the suspending of the rule to allow the additional bill being tabled today? None. Continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm introducing the following bill for its first reading so that may be placed on the order paper for the next meeting. The bill is entitled the Justice and Community Safety Reform Act 2026.
Thank you. Premier, there are no other matters other than to take us to the next piece that closes us out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that this Honorable House do now adjourn until Friday, July the 10th.
Yes, correct. Are there any objections to that, or anyone would you wish to speak to it? MP Richardson, you have the floor. You'd like to speak on motion to adjourn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon to you and my colleagues in the listening audience. Mr. Speaker, I rise yet again to speak to the ongoing tragedy that's happening on our roads relating to road safety, most especially the continued fatalities and injuries that are taking place and the abhorrent conduct. Now, whilst this government might not be responsible for every reckless act on the roads, it is responsible for the system meant to prevent, detect, and deter and punish every reckless act on the road. And in that regard, it is failing spectacularly, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the areas that we've seen getting worse and worse, or rather, Mr. Speaker, the public has seen the matters getting worse and worse, so much so that we've now seen a Royal Gazette editorial to the same effect on 17 June, wherein they had commented that 9 road deaths had happened in 2026 so far. That same editorial pointed out that Bermuda was now on track for 18 fatalities this year, the highest in half a century. In the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've seen serious road crashes in Dockyard, Warwick Sands, and Warwick again. So the issue is no longer one of education. It is no longer one of awareness. It is now about delivery, Mr. Speaker. You see, Mr. Speaker, the government owns the roads and maintains the roads. All of the enforcement tools are in the care and custody of the government. The ticketing reform system is in the care custody of the government, as is court processing, coroner reform, the issue of public statistics, and the delivery on all of these reforms that are aimed and will stop the current tragedies that are happening on our roads right now, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have to speak to this because this is an ongoing and serious matter where people are dying and being severely injured. A great point to this, Mr. Speaker, because it is a problem that has been occurring year on year and is only getting worse. The government's own Bermuda Digest of Statistics in 2025 reported that road traffic accidents increased by 32% in 2024. I'll repeat that, Mr. Speaker, they increased by 32%. The Digest reported that there were 1,459 reported accidents and 788 road casualties in 2024, including 127 serious casualties. The Digest recorded 7 road fatalities in 2024, and 6 of those involved motorcycles. The Royal Gazette editorial to which I refer said that all 2026 road deaths so far were on motorcycles as riders and pillion passengers. Mr. Speaker, one of the grimmest duties of a police officer is attending a road traffic collision, most especially when there are multiple parties who have been injured. One of the things that they train you at Bermuda Police Service Training School is that you have to go look around the scene for casualties, because as the 3-4 vehicles collide, bodies typically get thrown. I will spare us the gross details of the state of those bodies when a constable discovers them, or the EMT or firefighter, whoever is first on scene, as we call first responders. But one of the things that I would refer to this or inform this Honorable House, one part of that training, and it's a key part, is that when you conduct your wider search of that area, Mr. Speaker, one of the horrors you experience is you will often find the bodies not only just near the scene, but often over walls and in water. Because the violence of the accident means that the pillion passengers, typically pillion passengers on motorcycles, get thrown and catapulted quite a long way. As you can imagine, this causes incredible injuries, and that has to be dealt with at scene. We have to sustain these people until we can get them to the hospitals, but I can tell you right now that even those we could say even the first responder ranks will never be the same after those accidents. People are dying and being seriously injured on our roads, and that is something the government can take action about. Mr. Speaker, this is a public health and a family cost. The government's own public health impact statement says KEMH recorded more than 3,760 emergency room visits from road collisions between January 2023 and December 2025. That is more than 100 people every month attending the emergency department for road traffic accident. Mr. Speaker, nearly 10% of all of those are admitted. We already have a bed crisis, and so we're well aware that we need more beds in our hospital, but 10 of those beds every month are being taken by those who are admitted due to road traffic accidents. Mr. Speaker, this includes not just the people who are committing the offenses that lead to the road traffic accidents. These most especially include the victims of that reckless behavior. The average stay for these collision patients is 7 days. Nearly 44% of persons at these road traffic accidents require ambulance, and more than 93 of those were Bermuda residents. Mr. Speaker, this indicates the knock-on crisis of the road traffic situation that we have, most especially impacting our cost of health care and our cost of living, areas that are extremely sensitive as it is right now, and making our situation vastly worse is the road traffic situation in Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, road behavior is out of control. The government's Road Safety Week 2026 statement said BPS, or the Bermuda Police Service, issued 1,439 speeding tickets for over 59 kilometers per hour from January 2025 to the date of this statement. That same statement records 204 DUI arrests and 33 impaired care or control arrests. Mr. Speaker, although those are recorded legally for 2 separate criminal offenses, they're fundamentally the same thing, which means that nearly 250 drunk driving or impaired driving arrests took place. The Royal Gazette reported on 24 June that the BPS warned about e-bikes, excessive speeds, and dangerous driving. Mr. Speaker, I find such a statement to be as absurd as it is ridiculous. Mr. Speaker, of course, e-bikes, excessive speeds, and dangerous driving are taking place. Of course, they are subject to the Road Traffic Act 1947. Of course, the Bermuda Police Service should be doing something about it. I'm not sure what's happening in our country where we have to send out press releases to tell people that there are laws and that the police will enforce them. The public sees signs of this behavior absolutely everywhere: speeding, third lane, dangerous overtaking, ignored signs, and impaired driving. My colleagues in the One Bermuda Alliance who have gotten in a vehicle
Mr. Speaker,
with me...
point of order, if I may.
Point of order?
Yeah, I think,
Point of order.
unintentionally, I think the honorable member from the other side is misleading the House, because as I sit here and listen to his points, while I know his intentions are well placed, at one point, Mr. Speaker, the honorable member says that nothing is being done, And then, Mr. Speaker, he goes on to criticize what is being done. So you can't have it both ways, Mr. Speaker. As I said this before, we've taken multiple approaches to this, and it's not going to change overnight. So I think that the honourable member, while his intentions are good, may be misleading the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member?
Mr. Speaker, in the Hansard of 15 May, I raised the paper ticketing problem that tickets that officers issue are very, very complicated. Right now, they're being they use a sort of, I forget the name of the paper, the carbon paper. And when you issue a ticket, you have to issue one whole fact pattern. And then when you issue a new offense, you have to issue the whole fact pattern over again, which means that it takes hours and hours and hours to issue tickets, most especially when you return to the station, because those have to be hand put into the system. That takes you off of your patrol for hours, Mr. Speaker. So the very fact that you have actually finally detected and caught and you're about to summon someone to court for a traffic offense means that you're not patrolling. And the fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, police officers are committed to all kinds of crime, road traffic being only one of them. But the fact is that they are unable to then attend to the violent crime, drug trafficking, and other offenses that are taking place around the island at the same time. Mr. Speaker, the police need modern tools for modern policing. We're able to modernize our international regulation. We're able to modernize international business. We don't seem to be able to modernize the things that are leading to the safety of our people. The Judiciary Annual Report of 2025 says traffic cases filed fell by from 4,507 in 2024 to 3,406 in 2025. That is a 24% decline, Mr. Speaker. And what we're saying is, and no one believes that dangerous driving stopped or reduced by 24%. So what that means is that we have a problem in our system that is creating a logjam, and we're not able to identify and prosecute all of these offenses. So in other words, as the rate of accidents increase and more people get hurt, we are getting less and less able to stop it. Mr. Speaker, moving on to another problem. The consequences for all of these are just simply too slow. The Judiciary Annual Report of 2025 identifies magistrates' courts backlog, limited courtrooms, staffing shortages, and delay risks. And that same report, I'll move on, Mr. Speaker. Bear News reported in 25 June that the Ministry of Justice acknowledged staffing pressures in court services and other justice-related areas. The Royal Gazette on 17 June reported a story where one motorist was stopped 12 times and faced a potential $12,500 in traffic fines. At this point, Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure why we're just letting it go on and on and on. I mean, a person getting stopped 12 times and having $12,000 in fines, that feels like something serious should be happening. Mr. Speaker, at the same time, the Royal Gazette on 23 June reported a new traffic warrant process. Mr. Speaker, I would welcome when the Honorable Minister of National Security returns to the House, because as we continue our research into this matter and advocate for this government to undertake an action plan, Mr. Speaker, we have discovered troubling signs of warrants not being prosecuted, not being undertaken in a serious way. We've heard an outstanding number, or a number of outstanding warrants at 75,000 warrants. And if that's the case, that just boggles the mind. Mr. Speaker, the new traffic warrant process is just indication that our processes are too burdensome and too slow. As it stands right now, we've already made recommendations on how to improve law enforcement in this way, and we'll do so again at the end of this presentation, Mr. Speaker. Problem 6 of 7, we are not learning from the deaths on the road. The Judiciary Annual Report of 2025 says the coroner's office reviewed 137 deaths in 2025, up from 43% from 2024. And of that, road fatalities rose from 4 to 10, so up some 150%. Now, Mr. Speaker, the troubling part is that the Royal Gazette editorial of 2 September 2025 reported only 4 public inquests in a decade, while 981 sudden deaths were reported. So MP Scott Pierman's point about coroner reform isn't just a good idea, it's absolutely vital, because functionally what's happening right now is that as people are dying from sudden deaths, we're not learning from why they died. In other words, we're just making the same mistake over and over again. Mr. Speaker, absolutely no one has ownership of this whole system, given the reports that we've seen so far. Right now, there is not a consolidated plan in place. All the ministries are working, but we do not see any evidence of a joined-up approach. As it stands right now, the Judiciary Annual Report of 2025 says Bermuda has a significant and concerning increase in these collisions and fatalities and serious driving offenses, and even recommends a formal road traffic strategy, including legislation, enforcement, infrastructure, education, data, and measurable targets. Mr. Speaker, we know this government can put together a comprehensive plan because they did so for the purposes of other matters around the COVID crisis. And though I found several pieces of the national economic strategy wanting, nonetheless, they did put it together. And we debated that at length. Mr. Speaker, right now we need an answer, and it can't be one camera system, it can't be another education campaign, it can't be more condolences, and it sure as heck can't be more speeches. We need a systematic or systemic response to a systemic problem. As such, Mr. Speaker, His Majesty's Loyal Opposition puts forward 7 action items for this government to undertake, starting with publishing a 90-day road safety action plan. Like all crises, it needs a consolidated and unified approach with some clear directions, measurables. As it stands right now, the responsible ministry should be named and given certain roles: national security, transport, public works, health, education, all the agencies, TCD, Bermuda Police Service, EMS, Road Safety Council, especially in the Attorney General's chambers. Because as it stands right now, what we're seeing is simply the roads getting worse, and we have the data for it, which means that our solutions to date are not effective. Mr. Speaker, although the speed cameras will be rolled out expected in September, and I'm thankful for that, now's the time to start publishing the things that will advise us before we get there. Locations, where you're going to put them, what's the safety reasons for putting them, what are the privacy rules, how do you appeal this process, how does these tickets get reported? You see, Mr. Speaker, we not only have to put down these cameras, but we have to put them where the data shows us. We have to put them where there's crashes, schools, bends, speeding, and vulnerable users. And we have to show that the penalties are commensurate with the offenses, Mr. Speaker. Action number 3 that this government needs to undertake is visible policing and impairment checks. It is still absurd, Mr. Speaker, that we are telling people when we're going to stop them and where we're going to stop them for drunk driving. The fact of the matter is drunk driving is pervasive throughout our country right now, and the statistics I read earlier only prove that. We need roadside sobriety checks, and we need unannounced roadside sobriety checks. We need high visibility policing, not just during the holiday weekend, but intelligence-led all the time, data-led all the time. Mr. Speaker, the modern electronic ticketing system needs to be implemented as a matter of priority. The more we have police officers running around with pencils and carbon paper just reminds us just how much we are not prepared to deal with the crisis on our roads. The ticket system should be connected to the court, to TCD. They should be issued at the side of the road. Repeat offender data should be available to police officers. The public should be able to pay online and challenge the ticket and go through a clear court process. Mr. Speaker, the 5th of our 7 solutions. Court processing reform needs to take place immediately. Routine tickets have to just be dealt with in a routine manner, and they should simply be penalized. At this point right now, it takes so much to ticket anyone that you can see why the number of tickets are going down year on year, and in a commensurate fashion, the accidents and deaths and injuries on our road are going up and up, as is the hospital admissions. So unless we get on top of this, we're simply going to price ourselves out of the very health care that we need because we can't control our roads, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, action 6 of 7. Going on to the coroner report and fatal collision reviews. MP Pierman called for bipartisan work on inquest law. That is absolutely vital. But what we really need right now is to learn what is triggering all these road fatalities. Because the sooner we figure that out, the sooner we can do something about it right now, Mr. Speaker. As I spoke before, the police statistics, which is publicly available, is woefully outdated, and that concerns me because I don't know how we're making our decisions about what solutions we're going to bring to ending this tragedy. And finally, Mr. Speaker, we need a monthly dashboard. The Cabinet Office has started a project which we discussed during the last budget debate, where they're publishing more and more data online, and that is what we need to do in this case. But we're going to have to do it as it relates to road safety across the ministries. We're going to have to be able to track exactly what's happening out there, because as it looks right now, the only thing that we can track is the amount of failure that is happening on our roads. The simple fact is a number of hot spots have to be repaired, including road surfaces, signs, lighting, markings, bendings, junctions, and crossings, and that has to be informed by data, Mr. Speaker. It's clear that what we have right now is a crisis on our hands, a crisis that is hurting, harming, and destroying families, a crisis that is driving up healthcare costs, a crisis that is making Bermuda not look like the sophisticated jurisdiction that we hold ourselves out to be. This is not about just blame, Mr. Speaker. This is about a systemic approach to actually fixing a systemic problem. And until we do these things, then we should just hold our heads low, because we have no right to call ourselves serious people, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP. Minister of Cabinet, would you like your 20 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I certainly will not take 20 minutes. Just for clarity, based on the previous debate, that the speaker that sat down was speaking on behalf of the entire One Bermuda Alliance and not just speaking thoughts to himself, right? No, the last debate, when it was said, he said, I'm not speaking on, someone said, I'm not speaking on behalf of the House, of my party, I'm speaking on myself.
Motion to adjourn allows members to express an open view on any topic.
No, I understand that. I was just wanted to reference some things, but I didn't want anyone say that, to point of order me to say I'm not speaking on behalf. I really do appreciate that speaker's comments. It's not what I got up to speak about just now, but I do appreciate that speaker's comments. Mr. Speaker, I've been up here long enough to remember a time when we did work bipartisan when it came to situations like what was just mentioned. And while I do appreciate the suggestions and the 7 points that were given, I do know that there is space for us to have those conversations prior to us coming here and just and making announcements. And I would encourage honorable members opposite to reach out and let's have those conversations so we can move forward in a bipartisan way to tackle these types of things that are the scourge of our roads, such as road traffic accidents and the like. But Mr. Speaker, I did get up today to speak we're at that time of the year. Graduation season from our senior schools. Regardless of how we look at it, you only graduate once. I know in Bermuda we use the nomenclature. When you leave primary school, we call it graduation. When you leave middle school, when you leave nursery, you call it graduation. But you only do graduate from senior school, and we are in the process of that, going through that now. I do know the Barclay Institute had their graduation today. This morning, starting while we were here in this house, and Cedar Bridge Academy will have theirs on Tuesday, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, it is a special time for the students coming out of our public senior schools. This year is the first students to graduate from the new signature school, with a new signature school diploma. And that is a special time, Mr. Speaker. While I do know that we spend a lot of time as adults arguing back and forth of what's going right in education, what's not going right in education, which way it should go, which way it shouldn't go, at the end of the day, everything that we say and do affects those young students that are coming out of high school for the first time. And regardless of where we stand or what position we take on what can be done, what hasn't been done, what should be done, we should all stand up and applaud these young persons as they walk across that stage to get that diploma that they have earned with the 4 years of schooling that they've put in at the senior level, which is by extension is the full 13 years that they've taken since they entered into our system at age 5. Mr. Speaker, it's worthy of note that this new diploma wasn't something that was not planned. It wasn't something that just came about. That the fact that these students are now the recipients of plans that took hold nearly 7 years ago is a testament to when you have a plan and you say this is what needs to go into it. You have bipartisan conversations around that plan. You do the necessary consultation, and you get the necessary buy-in from all factors of the community to say, hey, we want our students to do better. You end up with what we have today. Unfortunately, as I said, I was unable to be in the Berkeley graduation, but I certainly will be at Cedar Bridges on Tuesday, as I will be introducing a special award in memory of my father, who was a expert tradesman, and the fact that we have and it will be labeled the Outstanding Trades Person of the Year for Cedar Bridge, which has the signature of trades and professions, something that has been asked for by many persons in our society to bring back, and I'm proud to say does actually appear at Cedar Bridge. I'm also happy to say my father, as a qualified electrician, I do believe the award will go to a young man who is studying to be an electrician coming out of Cedar Bridge Academy. So I'm extremely proud of that. Mr. Speaker, we did not get to this point by happenstance. As I said, this was years in the making. This was years of having meetings. This was years of critical data research of what the Bermuda needs in order for its citizens to succeed in the various professions. And this is how the idea of signatures came about, Mr. Speaker. It has got the buy-in of the signature partners that have signed on with all of our senior schools, whether it be from Belco, whether it be from KPMG, whether it be BUEI, the Bermuda Aquarium, whether it be BIOS, and so many others. I know when I was last there, we had signed on some Bermudian companies that are not even stationed in Bermuda, but they had signed on to be part of this phenomenon to ensure that our students are prepared to enter into the workforce if they choose to, or to go on to tertiary education with a better knowledge of what it is that they are good at and what they are interested at. So I just want to have an opportunity to speak to that, Mr. Speaker, and encourage all members of this House, as well as the listening public, please be ready to encourage these students as they leave our senior schools and head into tertiary education or into the workforce, because they are the very first recipients of this signature school diploma, and I am very well aware that they are prepared. They are hungry, and they want to be a successful part of our society, and they can only be that if we, as the adults, put aside our differences and stand up and go and support them, Mr. Speaker, as they walk across that stage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Does any other member wish to make a contribution? MP, Shadow Minister of Finance, MP DeCudo.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. I have three topics I wish to cover today. One a bit administrative, one a bit informative, and then a plea to the government for some action. Mr. Speaker, earlier today I made allusion to the ministerial code of conduct, and there was a little chatter that I should, know my rules, and something that I know I am certainly concerned about, and I believe obviously I don't speak for them, but my understanding is many of my colleagues in opposition are concerned about. Often we come here to bring questions on material topics for the public, or we put questions on the order paper, and then the question goes on the order paper, and then lo and behold, there's a press conference or a ministerial statement, and then everything is, public domain, and then we lose the opportunity to exercise our parliamentary privileges here on behalf of the people of Bermuda, which is to challenge, to seek information, to ask questions. And so, since there was a minister over there, I think he misunderstands. If you allow me, can I quote two parts from the Ministerial Code of Conduct? Yes, thank you. Section 7.1, Mr. Speaker, when Parliament is in session, ministers will want to bear in mind the desire of Parliament, that's this whole House, that the most important announcements of government policy should, in the first instance, be made in Parliament. And then that makes the process, that's the end of the quote, and then that makes the process of asking questions and supplementals available to us to inquire more deeply. So, and then the second quote, again, if you permit me, Mr. Speaker, is, in the case of answers to parliamentary questions, particular care must be taken to avoid making a press announcement before the relevant answer has been delivered to the member of parliament who tabled the question. So, Mr. Speaker, I certainly look forward to the Premier and his ministers paying careful attention to their code of conduct. And if they think it's not suitable, I'm sure they can make the relevant amendments. As you know, Mr. Speaker, I'm a stickler for the small things. And I think it's important that we in Parliament set a good example of following all the rules and regulations, just like any member of public is expected to. That's why, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind this House and the listening public, it has now been 6 months and 2 weeks that the Premier has been willingly and knowingly breaking the law by failing to provide to this Parliament the reports required by law.
I do believe you addressed that somewhat at the last occasion before that. At least a couple of times.
Yes, I understand that, but I believe it's my privilege to address it again, Mr. Speaker, and if the Premier perhaps is tired of it, I certainly would ask him to provide those reports, and as he said earlier today, the government can walk and chew gum at the same time, and I know that there'll be great interest in the public as to why the Premier does not want to inform the public of who the ministerial consultants were and how much they were getting paid. So I look forward to that, and if perhaps the Premier doesn't get it done by October, I look forward to the next Premier providing that information as required by law. So that's some information for the listening public. But those are perhaps administrative, Mr. Speaker. More importantly is, as you know, again, last week I spoke about this All Shores tax credit, and I was pretty concerned about that. And I almost fell out of my seat this week, as I believe many Bermudians did, when I read that they are turning around and doing a $20-odd million share buyback. So that's the taxpayer money, essentially, is just going straight through into buying back shares. Now, I don't really blame All Shores for that per se. They are just...
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. The honourable members misleading the House. You know very clear and well that tax credits are provisioned in the accounts and cash is not given and cash cannot be given until 4 years from now. If there's cash.
Premier just clarified the process.
Well, of course, we're not talking about bags of cash here, Mr. Speaker, but we are talking about profit and loss and account statements. And you know the cash doesn't actually have to show up. You just have to get the credit on the...
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member is misleading the House. In his statement, he said they are taking taxpayer money to buy back. And what I'm making sure that he is clear on, this House is clear on, and the people that are listening on, is that there is a provision for tax credits. But the tax credit legislation that was passed in this House does not mean those tax credits are actually payable until 4 years from now, in case they actually incur a tax liability under the corporate income tax, which due to their larger size, they may do, but they do not actually receive anything between now and 4 years' time. If they receive anything.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you know, the Premier can talk...
For the Premier's clarification.
Yes, well, I'll provide my own clarification. All Shores has booked... All Shores has booked on its account statements a $20-odd million credit from the tax credits. It hasn't actually received that cash in hand, but it has booked, according to accounting principles, audited accounts, put it to shareholders, so it's got that benefit. When the cash actually shows up, whenever that may be, that will be taxpayers' money. Now, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
The honourable members have seen the House again. A provision for tax credits under the Tax Credits Act. Yes, it is a qualified refundable tax credit, but it is not payable. And if that company does incur a corporate income tax liability, which the company in question, given that it operates in more than 6 jurisdictions, may actually do. So it is incorrect for the honourable member to say when that money comes. I'm fine for him to continue his line of work, but he cannot say when that money comes, as it is not a certainty. So it's fine to say that credit has been booked, but to say that they are taking taxpayer money to do a share buyback is not correct, Mr. Speaker.
All I can tell the listening public, Mr. Speaker, is the company and its accountants think they're getting that money, and therefore they have booked it according to generally accepted principles, and I am not one to tell the accountants how to do their job. Now, we read that they're spending the same amount of money buying back shares. Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. I fell out of my seat. Absolutely. And so I repeat my call to this government to sort this out, Mr. Speaker. There is no way, and look, I will even give the Premier and the government, it is a little complicated. I'm not going to deny that. But sort it out. There is no way the company should be getting this kind of money, and I'm not blaming the company, frankly. They're just doing what they're going to do. That's a company. There was no way they should be getting this kind of money and the government taking no action.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
The honorable member is misleading the House. I will repeat again, there is a tax credit provision that has been putting this company, the honorable member keeps on saying that they are getting the money, and he's trying to make it, and it is clear that on the Tax Credit Act passed underneath this House, there is provision, but there are no funds that are payable for at least 4 years. If there are funds to be paid, and that is only in case the company does not book a payroll or a corporate income tax liability in the future, which it very may well do because it operates in more than 6 jurisdictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will repeat. The accountants think they're getting the money. That's why they put it on the balance sheet. Anyone in Bermuda who runs a business, whether it's the lemonade stand or the shoe shop, knows when you get an asset and you put it on the books, that's kind of like money to your company. So the Premier can get up and talk about all he wants. The problem here, Mr. Speaker, is that the government has not sorted this out so that the clients of this company, which is most of Bermuda, receive the benefits of this tax credit asset that this company has booked. And should it get paid, which apparently in their view, their audited accountant's view, is probably going to happen. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it. So, I don't want to second guess them, and I'm sure the Premier doesn't. Why do Mr. and Mrs. Bermuda not receive a benefit for that on their premiums? And we're looking at this incredibly light legislative workload. My personal view is the government's been spreading out the legislation. I'm glad to see we got a bill tabled this afternoon because I didn't know what we were going to do 2 weeks from now. Other than just come up and hear me talk about the missing reports again, Mr. Speaker. So let me repeat my call to the Premier, to the Minister of Finance, to his cabinet. Please sort this out so that Bermudians know that their taxpayer money is going to go and benefit them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
The honorable member should, whenever he's speaking about all shores, declare his interest as a shareholder.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier is misinforming because if he bothered to pay attention, he would see that I removed those shares from my ownership quite some time ago, precisely because of this nonsense. And let me say this, Mr. Speaker, if I was an owner, I'd be sitting pretty because I would have just got a 20% benefit on my ownership. And I'm not. So in fact, I kind of regret doing that because I was sick of hearing from about it.
No, there's no more there. Fine. Thank you. Any other member wish to speak? Yes. MP Famous?
Mr. Speaker, let me apologize for not being here earlier. I finished work at 10 this morning, and I was dead tired. Yes, I do. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, listening audience. Mr. Speaker, last week a friend of mine sent me a WhatsApp and said, hey, they're talking about the hospital on the radio. I'm like, okay, they're thinking the health minister was on, right? I didn't pay it much mind. They said, no, they're talking bad about the hospital on the radio. It's a Sunday morning. I'm like, what radio station is that? Went to Hot 107, there wasn't there. Went to Paul 95, and there wasn't there. I said, let me go to the Ocean 89 station. So I tuned in to Ocean 89, where the host was Mr. David Sullivan, the person who likes to sideswipe. Mr. Speaker, there was a person, a guest on there.
The conversation needs to be directed this way, gentlemen.
Mr. Speaker, can I reclaim my time? Mr. Speaker, there was a guest on there, someone who sits in this chamber on Wednesdays, so let me just put it that way. He was there espousing all this, let's just say, hyperbolic sort of talk, Yeah, Google that, hyperbolic.
Contrarian backwards.
So anyway, one of the things that caught my attention, because sometimes people talk like Charlie Brown and you can't pick something up, but then there's a couple words that catch your attention. The person said the government needs to invest more in the Lamb Flogo Clinic. And that's like, make it full service because more beds and this. And they was going through this list of things that's going wrong at Lamb Flogo, in their opinion, I should say. And then my memory banks kicked in, Mr. Speaker. And I had to Google this. Yes, I did. Matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, if you mind me quoting something from the World Gazette from 2013.
Go ahead.
Headlines, Lamb Flogo Clinic March. Protesters marched to the House of Assembly in order to present the Premier, who was that, with a petition on hopes to keep the Lamb Flogo Clinic open. Mr. Speaker, I then have this thing called Google Pictures. I looked up my Google Pictures, and there it was. A lot of people from Don St. David's and other parts of the island converging on the House of Assembly because the OBA wanted to close down the Lamb Flogo Clinic. The then Shadow Health Minister, who I can't call her name, but we all know who it was, used to give all these excuses as to why it should be closed down. And then it was revealed that possibly some private medical doctors wanted to take it over.
Members.
So I then fast forward to 2026, and I say, what would have happened to St. David's had the people not stood up against the OBA's plans to close down Lamb Flogo? And we have the person who sits in this room on a Wednesday blaming us, the PLP, for Lamb Flogo when his party wanted to shut it down. Mr. Speaker, I digress. 2 weeks ago, a certain speaker who stood up just before me, amongst others, because I'm speaking for all of them, sent in this long list to relevant ministers as to what could CARICOM do for Bermuda. I'm paraphrasing. The list included, to the Minister of Housing, can CARICOM help to bring down the cost of construction? Can CARICOM help with housing? To the Minister of Education, can CARICOM help with education? To the Minister or Junior Minister responsible for prisons, can CARICOM help with that? And also to the relevant minister, can CARICOM help with the seniors? Mr. Speaker, when I was in the Army, I heard this term called red herring. No, wait for it.
Okay.
In the Army, they taught us this term called red herrings. Questions to which you fully know the answer already, or you think you know the answer already, but you want to ask it anyway because you want to look like you know what you're talking about, but you actually don't. Mr. Speaker, I searched all through the Hansard, and I asked myself, has the OBA ever asked the UK the same questions? Have they ever asked the UK, do you help Bermuda with housing? The answer is no. Do they help them with the cost of construction? The answer is no. Do they help with education? The answer is no. Do they help with prisons? The answer is no. Do they help with seniors? The answer is no. So you see, Mr. Speaker, on one hand, we have a...
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
Perhaps unintentionally, honourable members misleading the House, he may have forgotten the UK's vaccines that saved so many seniors' lives.
Trinkets, I believe.
Mr. Speaker, the questions in the thing was not about vaccines. At least be specific when you ask questions. But anyway, Mr. Speaker, I understand you all are grieving, but whatever. Mr. Speaker, the same question is never asked about the UK, who's our colonial administrative power. What are they doing to assist Bermuda and the other overseas territories? Because quite frankly, they're not doing anything. But somehow we still have to recognize them as our administrative power. Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
The honorable member is misleading the House. It is impossible for us to ask a parliamentary question in the House of Assembly that the UK would then answer. We have to answer those questions of the government, and that's what we did in this way.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in April of 2026, the House of Lords Committee said it's urgently needed that a white paper be there for the overseas territories because the 14-year-old white paper is antiquated and does not serve the overseas territories. Mr. Speaker, as we know, the King of England came here, and along with him came some ministers. One of those is Mr. Stephen Doughty, the minister responsible for the overseas territories. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Doughty was featured in the paper yesterday, 2 days ago, Royal Gazette, where it says the UK government rejects any white paper for the overseas territory. They prefer to just give their own suggestions, which basically means that a white paper that will come from the overseas territories listing things that the UK can do to assist them, they rejected it. So I asked, Mr. Speaker, on one hand, you have persons making red herring questions about something they know the answer already, but they make no effort.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
Impugning improper motive.
Mr. Speaker, I await your ruling.
Just restate what I'm trying to pick up just restate what you said.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to clarify impugning improper motive. The honorable member pointed out that there was a red herring that the OBA either knew the answer to these questions or in some way, shape, or fashion was setting up the government. And the simple fact of the matter is that parliamentary questions are a simple constitutional mechanism that we use to inquire of certain things of the government. The motive was clear. We asked questions, and we would like some answers.
Mr. Speaker, nowhere in the government's green paper did they say all these things that they claim. Nowhere in the green paper, so I don't know what action is. Mr. Speaker, the point I want to get at for the people of Bermuda is we hold the UK in such high reverence. The king comes and everybody stands up like Jesus has returned.
We weren't
You didn't invite us. It was an exclusive event for you guys.
No, I didn't go, bro. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, but the reality is when the overseas territories, nice name for colonists, simply say we need a revised agreement between us and the UK, the UK House of Commons said no. So we have to take into consideration, well, if our administrative power is not assisting us, we can't get help from the US. Can't get help from Canada. Where else can we turn, Mr. Speaker? Either we sit here on our own, or we look out for others who have similar situations as us. So I say all that today, Mr. Speaker, that the next time the OBA asks anything about CARICOM, right, ask themselves, where else can we get help from, or assistance, technical assistance, advice, whatever. Can we get it from the UK? The answer is no. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to close with this. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to close with this.
Right.
Yesterday, there was an article by somebody else sitting in the house with glasses on, talking about pay transparency. On one hand, he says it's good to have pay transparency. Then he says, well, maybe not too much transparency because that could cause people to possibly leave the island. I'm paraphrasing, so feel free to point order me. Mr. Speaker, one of the problems that we have in this country is when our people go away, our people meaning Bermudians, go away, get educated, the same education as people from abroad. They come back here. There's been anecdotal evidence that they aren't getting paid the same as somebody who ain't from here. So now that there's possibly legislation coming along to help put this out in the open, we have the OBA or somebody from the OBA saying, well, maybe transparency, total transparency is not good. What are we telling our people? I await the point of order.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the piece that the member is making reference to was an overall balanced approach, pointing out what the pros and cons are of both sides of the argument. In fact, I've made it clear that in some circumstances it can be supported and some not. He's characterizing it as to say out of the gate it's not supported by the OBA. That is not what that article said. He's being deliberately inflammatory and he's misleading the House.
Mr. Speaker, I can quote him all day if he wants. The point is, if you're going to be transparent, you have to be fully transparent. You can't be partially transparent. What he's asking for, or what his suggestion, is that the legislation be partially transparent. And that, to me, Mr. Speaker, is hypocritical. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member. Does any other member wish to make a contribution? Officer DeWitt.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since we're talking about insurance, I just want to appeal to the government. There was a promise made some time ago, a few years ago, that we would bring legislation to the table that would address some of the potential unfortunate mergers into monopolies for Bermuda. And I'm just urging the government if we can pick that back up again. It was very clear that it was made that something would be happening, and these are my words, more imminently, and it has been a few years, and it hasn't happened. I will use just as an example of some of the fears that I had with these mergers, and I'll use myself just as an example. I insure 4 members of my family, and to the tune of $4,600 and something a month for health insurance. Yeah. So undoubtedly after the merger, and yes, this is with Offshore, the same company that I called the director, one of the directors there, and didn't get a call back, just to try to get some feedback. So when I received the increase, of course, my accountant called and said, listen, your increase for this coming year, after paying $4,600 plus a month for 4 family members, is going up by $3,000 a month. Now, imagine that. I've been saying all along that health insurance is the new mortgage. That's a whopping $30,000+ annually for a health insurance premium. Now, I will say that I have a good insurance plan. Yes, and maybe I need to reconsider and shave in some areas. It is a wonderful plan that I do have, and have had it for many years. Because the coverage is excellent. But when you start talking about those kinds of increases, I'm feeling it. I know it. I know the numbers. And when my accountant calls to say, oh yeah. And that's why I've been saying, just look into it. Talk to these officials, because this is not something that's pie in the sky. This is a reality. It is an actual reality. I'm not sure what others are saying on the floor right now. There's a question mark there. I'm telling you the actual numbers. I'm not going to stand up and tell the public my insurance plan like it's not real. I'm telling you the actual numbers. Those are the numbers. So I made some calls, and I got some calls back. It took a long time to get some calls back and the likes. Okay, well, fine. And then numbers were being thrown back. Well, maybe it wasn't really right this, or it should have been that, and it should have been this. Well, at the end of the day, $4,600 a month is even quite hefty for 4 individuals. So I recognize that, fortunately, I've been able to pay that insurance, but I recognize also that there are many who have health coverage insurance, and they're nowhere near close to being able to afford to pay that. It is a real concern of mine. I'm not getting exercised by it. I'm just telling you the facts. just telling you the facts. That's what it is. And then for me to see that with the merger they saved or gained, as they said, $64 million. And then, of course, now I'm hearing that they're going to get tax credits and the likes. You look at the American system and what they've done craftily with their system is that if an insurance company has gains of over a certain percentage, then that money has to be turned back into reducing the premiums. We don't have that here. We have a higher standard of those who want to get into the insurance companies by the BMA, and it has set us apart. Obviously, they have to have a large amount of money in the kitty even before they open up their doors. And I will say this here, with the government plan, I mean, it has been a place for people to go because they just can't afford it, So I'm not throwing stones at anyone here. I'm just laying out what the realities are. And the best way that I can is to say what I'm experiencing. Best way I can to let you know. It's exorbitant, right? So I've been saying for years now that we're going to see these premiums continue to increase as we have these monopolies. I've talked about it before. And yes, we got to be tender about how we deal with these things. Bermudians have got shares in the company and all the likes. But you're also hearing about how the company is just making out quite well. And if you look at the model, I need to be fair to the insurance companies. They're operating with some pretty tight margins as well. But there's more that we can do as a parliament to help keep some of these things in check. And I don't believe that we have done enough. And our government has said that they were going to assist in this area. And I'm still waiting for the legislation to come forward that is going to help us with this here. And that's all I'm going to say. So I'm hoping that we see some legislation come forward. This is certainly unsustainable. When people are finding it very difficult to afford to live in Bermuda. Bermudians are finding it extremely difficult. And we've always had great health insurance in Bermuda, but we've got to do something about it. And so I'll move on from there and just go on to some of the comments that the former member stood up and talked about. And that's the Lamfogo Clinic. I don't believe that he told the full story. Lamfogo Clinic is still open. It never closed under the OBA. There was, it was publicized that the government OBA was looking at closing the doors. And I can say with clarity that upon my return on the island, I told Cabinet, that'll never happen. And it didn't. The same thing that I'm sure that PLP would have done was what I did as the premier. That's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. Over $200,000 short. Just not going to happen. And so I interjected in that conversation when I got back on the island, found out some of the decisions had been made, and interjected to ensure that it was never going to happen. And I was glad to receive the petition that my fellow colleagues from St. David's were keenly upset about it. But one of the facts that I do know is that under the PLP government, the hours have even been shortened from what it was back then.
What?
The hours of opening have even shortened.
Services?
And so it is an option, a great option to look at Lamfogo for extending services from King Edward Memorial to have in the East End. And I think it is a wonderful idea that we should be looking at how we can invest more money into our people, and our government continuously talks about how it's investing in its people. This is a great opportunity for us to alleviate some of the strain that is happening down at King Edward Memorial and look at a real possibility of Lamfogo being one of those places that we can beef up as opposed to the redacted or reduced number of hours that it is open since the OBA was government. I mean, it's a bit hypocritical to get up and throw stones when you've reduced the hours of opening from what it used to be. So, when members want to get up and talk about, the looking in the paper, well, do it comprehensively. As he said, be transparent. It's clear. We did not close it down. And yes, it was being discussed heavily at that time. Maybe it should be closed down, but it never, yes, it was announced that, we're looking to close it down. It never happened. It never happened because clearer minds.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. The honorable member's misleading the House, I think unintentionally, because I was at that protest, and I spoke at that protest. Right? So the fact of the matter is this, is that the decision was made. That's why it was such an uproar. So to say that no decision was made is untrue and is not factual. I think is unintentionally misleading the House. And the last time I looked, Mr. Speaker, Cabinet make collective decisions.
I can't say thank you for that because, quite frankly, it's foolhardy what he just said. Cabinet did discuss it. And as I said, I sat down with Cabinet and told them it's not going to happen. Whether it went into the Royal Gazette or not, the honorable member was not within those closed doors on what was being discussed and what was being said. And for that matter, I was at the protest myself and stood in front of everyone and told them that it would not close. Point blank. Lamb Fogo Clinic will not close. Whether he spoke or not makes no hill of beans to me, because it never was going to close. So the honorable member needs to just sit down and listen. So if he's fully transparent, he would acknowledge the fact that the OBA did not close it in, but that the PLP with Lamb Fogo Clinic has reduced the operating hours that was happening then, has reduced them. So yes, go on and you look it up. They have reduced the hours. How in clear conscience then PLP get up and do a point of order or say whatever when they're providing less services?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. The last time I looked, the PLP headquarters was in 16 Court Street. I don't recall anything on the PLP agenda about closing hours at Lamb Fogo. I do believe it's operated by a board. I do believe.
Mr. Speaker, what is he talking about? We didn't say close down. I said shorten hours.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I think the honorable member is inadvertently misleading the House. As has been stated in this honorable House on several occasions, as recently as the budget, that the regrettable challenges that we are having with respect to recruitment of overseas nurses and other medical professionals is as a result of why the Lamb Fogo facility is being operated on reduced hours.
I thank the honorable member for that. Then fix it. You should have fixed it before. Now I'm getting exercised. You knew it was coming. You could see it clear as day. The tea leaves were laid out. My goodness, we are having problem recruiting doctors. And guess what? We're still having problem recruiting doctors. And guess what? Allshore is gobbling up all the doctors to be a monopoly. The tea leaves, Mr. Speaker. The tea leaves. My goodness. I'm trying to be cool here. But we got a problem. We got a government. Actually, this is a nice cool suit. We got a government.
Just speak.
I need some Sobe tea. Health Minister, can you get me some tea?
Mr. Speaker, I have a little point of order. Did the honorable member say read leaves or smoke them?
No, let's not go down funny roads. Minister, member, will you finish?
I conclude, Mr. Speaker. I'm just looking for legislation to address this issue when it comes to the hospital. Please, government, I'm willing to assist. I'm bearing my soul here about what I'm experiencing with the very insurance company. We got to do something here. And too many people are talking about two things people are talking about right now as you go out. You know, everybody's been talking about. I'm not talking about the rules. We know the minister's doing his job is trying to get them covered. It'd be another 10 years, but he's trying to get it done. But you know, education and this health thing, man, it's a real challenge. And I'll leave the education to the education people. But this health thing it's really bothersome. We're getting calls all the time, and I'm grateful. You know, the minister. Whenever I call the minister, I'm going to give the minister kudos. The minister answers, and sometimes I get up and get exercise. But the minister, every time I call her, if she can't speak to me right then, she does call back. She actually does call back. So I'm grateful for the relationship that I do have. But minister, I need you to get cabinet to fix this thing now. It's got to be fixed because more's coming. More is coming. So please, before I do need a fan from the Honorable Famous Minister. Let's fix this thing and get some legislation in place. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, member. Is there any other member? Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in recent weeks and as recently as 20 seconds ago, we have heard a lot of discussion in the public domain as it relates to increased premiums. Premiums, of course, that are related specifically to private insurance companies. Now, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that the role of the opposition is a very important one in any democracy, and they are responsible to ask questions, challenge proposals, challenge the government, and raise issues that warrant further public consultation, and for that I'm grateful. And that scrutiny can be healthy, especially when it helps to strengthen policy decisions and so forth, particularly in areas that are incredibly important to individuals such as health and health care and health premiums. Mr. Speaker, no one disputes that health care affordability and the rising insurance premiums, the honorable member spoke about a 30% increase in his premiums in a private entity. These are legitimate concerns of all Bermudians, their families, employers, seniors, everyone. And we hear it on our doorsteps with individuals providing demonstrative examples of how their insurance premiums have increased year over year, particularly with respect to private insurers. However, Mr. Speaker, there is an important distinction between raising concerns and advancing solutions. Mr. Speaker, proposals such as directly regulating health insurance premiums must be grounded in the full evidence and understanding of how healthcare systems operate and what the wider consequences could be. Mr. Speaker, healthcare is a highly interconnected system. Measures that could potentially seek to restrict premium adjustments, for example, may not reduce underlying costs and instead may lead to some unintended consequences. Deductible increases, provider choice narrows, overseas access, and the like. And let me give you some examples of what's happened in other jurisdictions, Mr. Speaker. When policies are implemented to, for example, reduce the ability for premiums to increase, the unintended consequences could be as follows. Reduced benefits. So an individual may have 5 office visits per year. However, that's reduced to 2. $3,000 a year drug benefit could be reduced to $1,000. Higher deductibles. Lower provider reimbursement rates. So if the reimbursement rate is $500 for a $600 service and the insurance company reduces that reimbursement rate, you bet you will pay more as a copay. Narrower networks. In other words, there'll be fewer overseas locations for individuals to access overseas care because the networks are reduced. These are all potentially unintended consequences if we were to make strides and indicate that there could be no premium increases. I'm saying all this to say, Mr. Speaker, it is important that these concrete examples and consequences that can arise by making policies based on saying this is what the public wants, so we're going to say that we will not increase premiums because it is incredibly popular right now. In a small market of Bermuda, these impacts and the effects of these type of choices could have severe consequences on providers and in particular the Bermuda public. That is why, Mr. Speaker, policy in this area must be approached carefully based on evidence and system-wide data, as well as an analysis of the interventions and what the unintended consequences could very well be. Mr. Speaker, the government is committed, and we have spoken about this publicly, to addressing health care affordability and ensuring a sustainable, accessible system for all, including that 12% of individuals that are uninsured. However, it is taking a structured and measured approach by exploring the development of a review framework. And what do I mean by that? Mr. Speaker, we will be providing for a review framework. So in circumstances where significant healthcare system changes are being proposed, those changes have to go through a review framework process to ensure that the consumers are protected. So the purpose, Mr. Speaker, of this framework is not to set prices or interfere with the day-to-day operations of businesses or innovation in that for that matter. It is to ensure that material changes that affect our health care system are reviewed in advance so that their impact on affordability, access, competition, and system stability can be properly assessed. Mr. Speaker, as I said, Bermuda's healthcare system is undergoing significant changes with respect to new technologies, advances in pharmaceutical products, evolving provider and insurer models, as well as broader system reforms. And in such a small and interconnected system such as ours, decisions by one actor can have wide-ranging effects, as we've seen. And at present, there is no formal requirement for advanced notification of major system changes. And that means the government may not become aware of any of these impacts until after their implementation. So what is proposed, as we have spoken about previously, is a review framework, Mr. Speaker. And that review framework will be established to address any significant healthcare system changes that would require advance notification in this framework for things such as major premium increases, provider consolidations, exclusive networks, service closures, or significant benefit or reimbursement changes. If any of those above circumstances occur, the Bermuda Health Council will then conduct a time-limited review and provide the advice to the minister, who will in turn determine whether the appropriate what the appropriate response should be with respect to those examples that I listed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the mandate of the Bermuda Health Council is they are responsible for regulation, coordination of healthcare, and enhancing healthcare services across the island. And the approach that I've just spoken about, Mr. Speaker, is meant to be targeted and proportionate. It is not about regulating every decision, but about ensuring that significant system-wide changes within our health sector are properly understood before they take effect. Mr. Speaker, internationally, similar advances and these type of mechanisms exist in jurisdictions like the United States, Australia, Canada, and other United States. And these systems are designed not to prevent innovation, but to ensure that major changes are implemented in a way that protects patients and system sustainability. And Mr. Speaker, the government's approach reflects a simple principle. Meaningful health care reform requires more than reacting to individual proposals. It requires a framework, Mr. Speaker, that allows the government to understand and assess the broader impact of major changes before they take effect, and how the public and the unintended consequences that could happen to members of the public. And healthcare affordability remains a serious challenge, and the government is committed and remains committed to addressing it. But solutions must be evidence-based, system-aware, and designed to avoid unintended consequences that could ultimately reduce access or increase the cost to Bermudians. Mr. Speaker, that is the purpose of the government's planned proposal as it relates to the review framework, which again is going to be established to ensure that any significant healthcare system changes have to be addressed first. And that will help to ensure transparency, accountability, and better informed decision-making in the public interest. Let me end where I began, Mr. Speaker. Again, the role of the opposition is to challenge and question, and that's an important element of our democracy. The role of the government is to govern responsibly, anticipate risk and unintended consequences, and ensure that policy decisions are informed by evidence and the broader public interest. Mr. Speaker, the proposed review framework for significant healthcare system changes reflects that responsibility. And I also submit, Mr. Speaker, that it is a measured and forward-looking approach designed to strengthen transparency, improve accountability, and ensure that major healthcare system changes are considered carefully before they affect the people of Bermuda. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Does any other member speak? MP Swan?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Good evening.
Yeah. Would you like to clarify right now? Yes. The member, when he was on the speech, indicated that some of the figures he used, he just found that they were off. He just wants to put it.
I want to make sure that the numbers are correct. So for 4 people, I just pulled up my statement. I'm paying $8,871. 4 people. Think about that. My accountant sends a note to me and says, it appears that it will increase monthly by $2,800. I'm just reading it now from my insurance, okay? I just want to clarify that.
Thank you.
$8,800 for 4 people a month. And it's increasing by almost $3,000 a month. It's right here. You want to come see it? I'm got it right here.
Thank you. MP Swan, you can do your presentation now.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I had to attend an important event this morning, and I apologize that after the 10 o'clock roll call, I couldn't be present when we had congrats and obits. I think I walked in just as it had concluded. So I'm going to take a little bit of time on the motion to adjourn to do something that I would have done this morning. Taking place at 4 p.m. this afternoon is the funeral service of a well-respected St. Georgian who I've known personally since 1980. His name is Robert Skippy Lewis. I got to know Robert Skippy Lewis, Mr. Speaker, when we both served on the St. George's Golf Course Advisory Committee when I was first appointed, when I returned home from university. The Honorable Ralph O. Marshall, who I known for quite a number of years, appointed me to my first government advisory board, and I was grateful for the expertise that I brought to the formation of the St. George's Golf Club, which opened 5 years later, and served Bermuda well, and I went on to become the general manager there and the golf professional for a stint of nearly 15 to 20 years thereabouts. Mr. Robert Lewis was well known in the shipping industry for Bermuda Container Lines. And when I speak about Robert Skippy Lewis, Mr. Speaker, I can't help but think of the late Victor Mallow Jr., another St. Georgian who I knew through golf back in the early 80s. And those young fellas came up in St. George's boys, who, through being a maritime seaport, like you would find in Dockyard especially, it would produce a lot of persons who would find work in that industry. And Robert Skippy Lewis would work his way in the shipping industry and become a very successful businessman. I later got to know Robert Skippy Lewis more personally in a political capacity. And I just spent a lot of time with him and his wife, he leaves to mourn Valerie, who was a long-time person at pharmacist down at Robertson's drugstore. And, with modern, not relying on the newspaper the way we used to, sometimes these things slip past you. But I would have been remiss if I didn't express my condolences to this gentleman, this St. Georgian, and the Lewis family from St. George's. It was well known and well regarded, and I thought a great deal of him. I also would have given special acknowledgement, which I'm sure was mentioned this morning, of the 100th sailing of the Newport to Bermuda yacht race. I declare my interest. I grew up in a maritime family. I'm the great offspring of, I'm the grandson of a fisherman and a farmer, but I'm also an offspring of Charles Roque Rattery, and it's well documented that he built schooners and brigantines out of Somerset, out of Harmon's Bay, and would have traded down in the islands back in the 1800s. And so I have always had a fond love for Newport to Bermuda yacht race, Mr. Speaker. the ultimate sports tourism initiative. And sports tourism and cultural tourism are very important to Bermuda and important to this government. And I'll just segue before I dive a little deeper into Newport and say that I'm very proud of the government in connecting the dots with sports tourism and cultural tourism, art tourism as well, and other aspects of the unseen, the things that touch your heart, and allowing people to be connected with our unique authenticity in this area. And, you've seen the younger generation, and I'll declare my interest. On Bermuda Day, I'd like to see more people sailing in the comet race and out there in boats following the comet race. And I gave a challenge to my cousins and those of us who love comet racing. The answer to that is not for us comet race lovers to complain while all the young people are following Carnival. The challenge for us in sailing, and particularly comet sailing, is to get more young people on the water sailing in those type of boats. It's on us. Because when I went through Tonkat for the first time in my life, it wasn't by my choice. It was in 1961 or 62, when I was about 3 or 4 years old, when my grandfather, John Anderson, didn't accept his daughter dropping her child, leaving her child at home to go down in the Torn Porpoise from Scawa and go down and watch Gleb and Lambert sail for the first time as a skipper, having been co-pilot to the late Colin Perriman, the Undertaker, when he used to sail. No. My grandfather says, you would, huh? Pick that little boy up, threw him in the submerged toilet, and took him out in White Hill. And next thing you know, there's a lot of looking at it and says, who's that little boat coming through the cut? That can't be the submerged toilet. My daddy must be crazy bringing my little child down through the cut in 1961 or 2 to follow his grandson Gledwin sailing for the first time. He would later go on and win the race in 1977. He won it the year before I won the Bermuda Open Golf Championship in 1978. I was proud when my cousin Gledwin won the Comet race in 1977 because we were a family of sailors and golfers, musicians and the like. And that's why I love Newport. Because as a child, my uncle used to pack us up in the boat after they had spent 2 weeks down at St. David's Island off of the finish line. Uncle Franny, I always call him Uncle Franny Hall, because he was Franny Richardson. And I'll declare interest for it. His daughter sits in this very house, straight across from me. Was one of those persons with my, they call him the cook. Uncle Franny. His daughter's a member of parliament for constituency 36. All right? And my Uncle Chester Hall. Right? There. All there. And my Uncle Bill Anderson was the skipper. But Bill Anderson would tell me stories. He said, listen, we would go down and spend 2 weeks off St. David's in our boat, and we would dock our boat right off a white horse, off a black horse. Cook fish, mingle with St. David's Islanders. Culture that people need to know about, right? And so if we want more Bermudians on the water, enjoying our waters, I've been advocating for us to have more ferries and stuff. The way we do it is we've got to find a way to teach our young people how to use the water, how to sail, and how to make good use of the most precious resource that surrounds us. So it's on us. It's not on the government, Because the government didn't take me through Tonkat to allow me the passion to be able to speak today. My grandfather did that. So those who like things, I see folks run around with balloons today for graduation. Some fathers I gotta work, but the fathers that are out there day in and day out, leaving memories with children who will remember them 20, 30 years from now. Those are the unsung heroes too, along with mothers.
Very important. I was walking in St. George's this week, gave some of the best advice I could give in my life. Not worried about the rain, had to stop out of the rain. Not because I minded getting wet, I was enjoying it. But if my cell phone gets too wet, it's not going to work. So I walked underneath Summers Playhouse. Young fella, maybe in his late 20s or so, standing underneath there looking perplexed. I said, "You all right?" "There's rain, man." I said, it's okay, it's just a little water. He says, "No, I'm gotta go get my buy." So he had a little quandary. He had to go pick up the son, right? And I said to him, "What you're about to do is the most important duty of your life." I says, "What you're setting out to do, to rendezvous with your son, is what 40 years from now he will remember." I was there contemplating what someone meant to me when I was writing an obituary for someone that sat in this house whose father I knew when I was a teenager. And when I said that I could call up his photo in an instant, I had to ask myself, and that young man was there, why? Because we spent meaningful time in a grocery store. We spent meaningful time going running errands. We spent meaningful time around our mutual love for golf. 50 years later, because he died in 1975 in June, the late John Nicholas one. 51 years later, I can remember him. That's what we need. And you know what? You can't glean that reading it. You can't glean that just talking to somebody. You have to glean that by getting involved in lives. That's why I go up to Dalton Tucker. Because there's a school that people refer to as DET. I said, no, I didn't grow up going to DET. I grew up going to Dalton E. Tucker. Why? Because I knew Dalton E. Tucker, Mr. Speaker. I think you did too. I think the honorable member from 36 too. I knew Dalton Tucker when she held a belt in her hand and she doggone gave you a few belts because you deserved it. I can feel him. But she licked Adele harder than us. And you can hear her right down the hallway. I say that to say this, Mr. Speaker. It's about culture. It's about what is it going to take to really capture the soul and the hearts of our people in this country. And I'm telling you that I got this talking about this just by talking about Newport. Newport is not just a race. The Edward Cross Memorial is just not a race. Carnival is just not a party time. These events are touching people's souls, whether you like it or not, in different ways. It's not my cup of tea, the latter. It's my wife's. Bleeding girl. It was the wife of my cousin that sat in this house, the late Honorable Stanley Rattray, first education minister, whose porch I grew up running under when the parties of all the elite were happening up on Coral Acres. My cousin from Somerset, yes, his wife came from the island. She loved Carnival just like my wife. Might not dressed exactly the same way, but they were similar. I'm just saying is that your culture evolves from where you are. And it's important. Half of our problem in this country is we haven't allowed ourselves to understand who we truly are. I've been blessed in life to have running through my veins and to have in my spirit cultures from the widest district of this globe and married into the portions that I don't, Asia, through my stepchildren, understanding the importance of these cultures. The late Dorothy Chin, first Asian American elected to
the bar to be a judge in America. My close friend who died in 2025 of January, just before the election. And that's why I know history and culture of my Asian cousins and family, history and culture of my European cousins and family are just as important to the history of my African family and community, and my Latin American family and community, and my Irish and Scottish family and community. It's important to them. We need to stop intellectualizing when it comes to CARICOM. Those of us whose families came to the dockyard, those of us whose families came here, like the honorable member from constituency, my White Hill constituency, grandfather, Mr. Snake, came here, not too dissimilar to the way George DeCosta came here to Berkeley, not too dissimilar to the way Victor Scott came to Bermuda. They came to educate, not too dissimilar to the way Mr. Manchester came up from St. Kitts and Anguilla to educate us at the Berkeley, not too dissimilar to my teacher, trying to think of her name right now, who died on the Christiana down in St. Kitts in my first year in Berkeley, Mr. Speaker. I never forget why that woman loved me so much. And I cried when she died that Christmas, because she could see St. Kitts in me. And guess what? When I got to know Dame Lewis Brown Evans very well, so much so that when I was opposition leader and my daughter going to Munson Agnes had an issue, I drove down past Salters on St. John's Road, stopped at the stop sign, it wasn't a roundabout there, went across the street and told her my problems, and she said, shared with me with the crossword puzzle on the floor, the same problem she had when her child went 2 months in Agnes. The same problem. And I'm here to tell you, Mr. Speaker, these things speak to our culture, speak to who we are as people. Because when I present that problem to somebody that don't come from the community, they don't understand it. We deserve to be connected. And I said it in this house, we deserve to be connected with CARICOM in the same way we need to be closer connected with the Azores. The same way we've always been connected with the United Kingdom. We owe it to ourselves to stop being in denial that we've lived the greatest self-hate. And in closing, Mr. Speaker, let me share this with folks as I go down in memory lane. I wouldn't plan to go here, but I got led here. I remember, and you will remember, Mr. Speaker, when the Progressive Labor Party in opposition during the budget put forward a motion for one department to receive $1. $1. Remember that, Mr. Speaker? Honorable Member Whip, you remember that? That's the type of courage and conviction. I understand what it means today. $1. The Progressive Labor Party. Al Frederick Wade might have been the shadow finance minister then. Mrs. Lewis Brown Evans would have been the opposition leader then. Mr. Cox, or maybe Mr. Cox was the shadow finance minister then, and Al Frederick Wade was the opposition leader. I give or take a little bit of there, but I remember that type of conviction. Why? Because our connections with those dockyard persons that had to come here to find a different living is whilst it's similar, it's different from the ones who came here to educate us. We come from the Caribbean, just like our families come from the Azores, just like our families might come from Ireland, for different reasons than those that might come from England. And so it's important upon us not to ask anybody's permission whether or not we think this is important, Because sometimes in leadership, you have to have the courage enough to take the bull by the horns and do what's right for the people. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, MP. And Bitaka, would you like to make a contribution?
I would, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. Thank you. We've had some conversation about healthcare. So I actually, this is something that has come up for me on multiple occasions in my speaking with constituents and as well as personal experience. So I would like to say, because again, I recognize that we're not here for ourselves. We didn't send ourselves here, and we have an accountability to our constituents to bring things and advocate on their behalf. So when I was out canvassing not too long ago, one of my constituents mentioned to me an experience that she had in the hospital. Her experience was not great. She was in the overflow unit. She mentioned that there was really nowhere for her to go. She was really just stuck in the bed. She said it was divided by curtains and she could hear everybody else's business. And obviously when the doctors came and nurses came to speak to her, that people could hear all her business as well. Since then, I've spoken to a few other people who have had similar experiences. So as we were talking about insurance earlier, but I just wanted to bring things, look at, or I should say speak to the other side of it as well. And that is the practical experience that people are having in the hospital, because there was some mention of nursing shortages and the like. Now, why it's important, another reason it's important to bring that up and the experiences that my constituents and the few other people that have said to me is because what was interesting is that, to me anyway, is that a few people that I have spoken to have checked themselves out of the hospital against doctor's advice. And that is because, and this is what they've said to me, that the conditions were such where they just couldn't stay. And so they've left. What I'm worried about is, like I said, this is not just one person that said this. There are multiple people that have said this. And so what I'm worried about is perhaps creating we may be seeing the beginnings of a trend of people that are doing the same, which is highly problematic. So I want to put that here, and I'm just going to put a pin in that for a second, because we've all heard about the patients lined up in the hallways and whatnot. I had a personal experience. I was in the hospital for 4.5 days in emergency, and I just got out of the hospital on Tuesday. And so my experience was mixed. I had some very attentive nurses, and I've had some nurses that were not great. Bedside manner was not great. I made my experience known while I was still in the hospital. I had a situation where I was brought my linen so I could change my own bed. I was woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning with bright lights, no warning. Oh, we've come to take your vitals. Nothing. Woke me out of a dead sleep, scared me half to death. And then, of course, on another day, I heard patients outside, family of patients outside screaming to the top of their lungs because of the type of care that they felt that their loved one was getting. So I want to raise that here now as well, because obviously there is a review happening at the hospital, and I'm grateful for that. But I also want to express concern over the fact that we do have nursing shortages, we do have doctor shortages, but where people are stretched, where people are doing double shifts, where we have nurses that are leaving their units to come and fill in at the emergency room and the like. People cannot do that on a sustained basis. They have to be able to have breaks. They have sufficient breaks so that they can rest and recover like the rest of us. And so where we start to see a lot of care downfalls could very well be that people are just simply overstretched. We've seen the numbers, the overtime numbers that are being paid out. We've seen that in healthcare, we've seen it in prisons, we've seen it in police. And I appreciate that it is difficult to find staff. But we have to also, and I say that because I'm in HR, I have difficulty sometimes finding staff too. But when we're talking about our essential services, we have to also look at the conditions that are not making us attractive enough to be able to enough people to want to come to work here. And I just want to raise something as well, and something else as well, is that everybody's seen the front page of the paper, the taxi driver telling the woman to go home and all of that stuff. I don't want to speak to that specific situation. But what I do want to say is that while I was in the hospital, someone had made mention to me that there's all these foreigners here. Well, if they weren't here, who would we have? Bermudians? If we didn't have the foreigners working in I don't know, 4-star pizza, who are we going to have? Who's the Bermudian? I'm calling the Bermudians now. Step up and go get the jobs. Show up and perform. We have to start being real and honest. I didn't come here to do all this fluffy stuff and gain votes. If I lose votes because I'm telling the truth, I'm willing to do that. Because I'm here for the benefit of the country and the people, not because I care so much about votes that I'm going to just gloss over things and act like they're not happening, because they are. My concern is about everyday Bermudians and the quality of life that we have here. So with the few minutes that I have left, Mr. Speaker, I want to just switch topics for 1 second. Because I listened last night. Well, I had just gotten out of the hospital, so I wasn't able to attend Sir John's funeral, but I watched it. And all of the tributes, I watched the proceedings in here on Tuesday. All of the tributes actually painted a really good picture for me. Because I first met Sir John back in probably the late 80s, but I didn't know him, like that. I've met him. And I listened to, I think it was Magic last night, that played a couple of the interviews that he had with Graham Blakeney. And one thing that stood out to me amongst what happened here, what happened at his service, and as well as on that radio program, being able to hear him himself say the things that he said, it was very clear that he cared about the country and he cared about us. And I'm grateful for that. I took a lot of good nuggets from what I heard him say. So I want to talk a little bit about political accountability, because I think it segues right from Sir John's interviews that I heard last night and all that was said. I want to speak to this issue which is beyond party lines, Mr. Speaker. It's beyond our ideology, beyond the daily back and forth that happens in this House. It concerns the very character of our country at a time when the world around us is becoming a whole lot more strained, more divided, and more unpredictable. We're living through a period of profound geopolitical tensions. Nations are hardening their positions. Conflicts are escalating. The tone of global discourse is growing sharper. I don't think that anyone has seen it this sharp as we currently are living through it. And while Bermuda might be small, we are certainly not insulated from all of what's happening. The pressures of a shifting world, Mr. Speaker, are reaching our shores, economically, socially, and also emotionally. And in times like this, societies often reveal their best and their worst. And we must be honest. The global climate of polarization is becoming, and it is beginning to seep in to our own community. We see it in how easily suspicion replaces understanding, and how frustration replaces compassion. But Bermuda can't afford to fracture. We are too connected. We are too interconnected. We actually care about each other, even though sometimes we don't act like we do. If we are able to withstand the pressures of this moment, we have to reaffirm certain fundamental truths. And that's our responsibility to care for one another, Mr. Speaker, is not conditional. It doesn't depend on race. It doesn't depend and ought not depend on socioeconomic status. It doesn't depend on whether someone agrees with us politically. It depends only on our shared humanity and our shared home, this island that we all are in here and we say that we love. Mr. Speaker, we often say that Bermudians are suffering, but saying it, Mr. Speaker, is not enough. We have to get to a point where we're actually feeling what our country is experiencing. We have to allow ourselves to be moved by the struggles of our people, not the statistics, not the headlines, but in our lived realities. Because sometimes we can get up in our ivory towers and forget where we came from. A lesson that all of us can take from Sir John, because he didn't forget where he came from, where he had come from. Families, as we all know, are under strain. Our young people are searching for direction and looking for direction, certainly from us. Our seniors are increasingly feeling the weight of the isolation that they're living every single day. And workers are stretched thinly by the cost of living. Mr. Speaker, this is not a time for political posturing. It's a moment for moral courage. And a part of that courage, perhaps the hardest part for us, is the courage to hold each other accountable. Not just across the aisle, but within our own political parties, within our own ranks, and within our own comfort zones. Accountability is not an attack. It's an obligation that we have to each and every person that have marked that X next to our names when they went in that polling booth. We owe it to the best of ourselves, to our constituents, who are the people that actually put us here. They didn't send us to this house to defend personalities or to protect political tribes. They sent us here to uphold principles, to safeguard the public good, and to challenge one another when we fall short. Mr. Speaker, if we can't hold each other accountable in this chamber and within our own parties, even if we're going the wrong direction, but we have to have the courage to stand up and say it's wrong. If we can't do that, Mr. Speaker, how can we possibly ask the country to trust us and trust us for real? If we can't demand integrity, we can't demand transparency and humility from those closest to us politically, then we risk becoming the very thing we claim to stand against. We must put aside the instinct to score political points and instead choose to build bridges. We must resist the global tide of polarization and hold fast the values that have always defined Bermuda at its best: respect, empathy, community, and yes, accountability. Because the world is shifting, Mr. Speaker, and if we do not anchor ourselves in unity and principle, we risk being swept into the same currents that are pulling other nations apart. Mr. Speaker, I pray that we choose differently. Let us choose to protect each other. Let us choose to lead with compassion rather than with division. Let us choose to act not out of fear, but out of conviction that Bermuda's strength has always come from its people and their willingness, Mr. Speaker, to stand together. So, Mr. Speaker, as I take my seat, I urge every Bermudian, every member, to reflect on the kind of society we want to be in this moment of global uncertainty. Let us be committed to being a country that doesn't fracture under pressure, but instead rises to meet it with dignity, with unity, with care, and the courage to hold ourselves and each other to the highest standard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Taka. Opposition Leader, would you like to make your contribution at this time?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon.
Thank you. Before you start, MP Famous, would you take the chair for a minute?
Hey, Speaker.
Hey! You can start, Opposition Leader, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, yeah. Going on.
Mr. Speaker, I think one of the things that has actually come up a couple of times today. Good afternoon, Mr. Acting Speaker, MP Famous. It's important that we point out what priorities are. Because several times, MP Cannonier has risen to his feet and talked about healthcare and mergers and acquisitions of pharmacies and doctors' offices and what that impact would have on our community. Mr. Acting Speaker, it started off as a warning before it happened, but now it sinks in as the reality. And not everybody in this country works for the government. In private sector, a lot of people with private insurance have seen premiums continue to rise at a time that these mergers are happening. And MP Cannonier has pointed out, he understands that these mergers happen a lot of times because of what our economy is doing at the moment, what our population is doing. With a shrinking population, less customers, potentially you're going to see these mergers. But Mr. Acting Speaker, his warning was on what the impact was going to be on our people. And the Honorable Premier had pointed out that he was actually going to do something about it several times. But Mr. Acting Speaker, that was quite some time ago. And the impact is real on real lives. And the problem with that is that people make decisions based off of what those circumstances are. When MP Cannonier talks about the increase for him and his family, look at that across the community. Some people are in a position to be able to afford those increases, but many others are not. And with that, some of our citizens have made the decision that because of that increased cost of health care as one of the negatives within the cost of living, that they can't live here anymore. They want to go somewhere else where they feel that they have access to health care and affordable health care. We know that this is one of the factors that is causing people to make those choices. Nobody in this chamber wants people to make those choices for that reason. But Mr. Acting Speaker, that is the reason that the One Bermuda Alliance put forward that we should put regulations in place. When we say regulations, that does not mean that you automatically tell that insurance company that you can't raise your premiums. But they should have to justify why the premium is going up the percentage that they want it to go up. And what is that going to mean? Is this sheerly greed so that they can increase the amount of money they're giving to their shareholders off the backs of the people in Bermuda? Or is it because increased costs within the medical field, changes in the community? But that should be a full analysis that is gone through before they make that decision, because it impacts the lives of our people. So I'm thankful to hear the Minister of Health talk about the Health Council and what that communication will look like and the communication with the ministry and the minister. But I didn't hear anything in there that talked about the teeth that will be needed. Because, Mr. Acting Speaker, when the Honorable Minister of Health tried to stand up to this very large insurance company, they paused for a second and then ignored her. And Mr. Acting Speaker, the minister talked about you have to be very careful in this kind of change. I agree with her. But she went on to talk about the unintended consequences that might come about by telling them potentially you're going to restrict them from raising their premiums whenever they feel like it. But Mr. Acting Speaker, those consequences have already begun. Remember, they took over the doctor's offices, they took over the pharmacies, and then they merged. And then they started to make changes to who you could go to as a pharmacy. And then they started to tell those doctor's offices that you need to speed up how quickly you are meeting with your patients. Now it's an assembly line, because that's what big business thinks about, not the individual and their health. That's the danger in a community of our size. Because as you move in that direction, it changes from how our community used to work with business. Once we just become numbers, and that's where this is heading, and that is where the Honorable MP Cannonier was pointing out that this is why you need to actually step in. This is the opportunity for a government to make a change that actually can help the people over business. Because now you see doctors opting out. Because if you're a doctor that actually cares about your patients, the assembly line version doesn't work for you. And we are already seeing them send out messages to say you can go to this hospital, but not that hospital if you have to have overseas care. So look at the restrictions that start to come in play as they get bigger. So the same way that the regulators in place have to look at the full picture and analysis when they're dealing with Belco, that's the same concept that we were referring to. They should have to justify how they get that price increase. Because, Mr. Acting Speaker, 18% one year, then 18% the next year, and then 18%. There is no possible way that that's the way the number works, because in any other industry, restaurant can't all of a sudden increase the prices by 18%. And Mr. Acting Speaker, we know Belco can't do it. But where we are with this is healthcare. So not only, as MP Tucker just talked about, we are actually having a crisis on how we are providing our health care. The cost of that health care is increasing without any indication that it's ever going to stop, that there's even anybody looking at how they can restrict it. Once again, I'm thankful that the minister is talking about the conversation with the council. But if we don't actually have a way to say to these insurance companies, this isn't working, we get to the point where they get to tell you which doctor you get to go to, which pharmacy you get to, which medicine you're allowed to have. That's true haves and have-nots. And I know there's nobody in this chamber that is advocating for that. But Mr. Acting Speaker, that is the line that we are on right now. And I'm asking, when the Honorable Premier said that it was going to be a priority multiple years ago, why is it that in this session, with very little on the agenda, it isn't already on the table? It needs to be a priority. Because I'm talking about the monopolies in healthcare, but we also have monopolies in our food. We have to understand, because of the changes in our country, because of the changes in our population, and the mergers have happened, and acquisitions of multiple grocery stores and multiple health insurance, pharmacies, doctors' offices, we are now putting our health and our food in the hands of a small group of people. And they get to determine in the future how we live, or if we live. This must be a priority. And I'm asking this Honorable Premier to make it a priority now and not wait to put it on the plate of the next Premier. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Premier, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I hear a lot of sound and fury from the opposition. The Honorable Minister of Health has given her comments on this particular matter, and the Honorable members will know that governments, it is easy to be in opposition to talk about things, but governments must go through a policy-making process, and the Minister of Health has sufficiently addressed the issue of the matters in which we are advancing. But the thing is important to note, they're working on many particular things with healthcare, because I don't hear the same sound and fury from the opposition worried about making sure that we cover the 12% of people in this country who are uninsured as well, which are other items. So I accept that there are a number of particular items that maybe want to be their priority, but the government has set out its matters inside of its throne speech and are working through all of them. Mr. Speaker, I just want to, Mr. Speaker, okay. They will go ahead and say nothing, Mr. Acting Speaker, and the record, as I easily reflected earlier, says a whole bunch of different. But that's fine for them to make their particular comments. Mr. Speaker, Acting Speaker, I just want to address one thing, and it's just a small point. But I think it's important that when honorable members opposite get up with sound and fury and talk about the rules and the laws, that they actually take the time to be learned up on these particular matters, Mr. Speaker. And before I go there, Mr. Speaker, I just want to stay on the matter related to healthcare, stay on the matters that are related to priorities, and stay on the matters that are related to the matters of which the government is advancing. I think that it is particularly important to recognize that there are a number of varied priorities. The Minister of Health has spoken about what is happening on matters related to healthcare, but let's look at what has been delivered by the Minister responsible for housing, which is something that was a throne speech initiative and that is going to build significant houses. The Minister of Youth, Social Development and Seniors today, who has tabled regulations that are going to expand childcare access inside this country. The matters that are related to the Minister of Public Works, who is expanding road provision and other particular matters in this country. And certainly, Mr. Speaker, the continued work of the Minister of Health expanding healthcare access and making sure that we can deliver universal healthcare. So from these particular perspectives, Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue to press forward on our agenda, and it is our desire and intention to make sure that the things which are addressed inside of our throne speech are brought forward. There was a major piece of legislation that was tabled earlier today. I'm not going to speak on that. I'm going to allow the Attorney General, who sits in another place, to be the first to address the country on these things. But there are a number of matters which are priorities, and there's a number of matters which are going forward. Mr. Speaker, allow me to say this, as I'll just go back to my final points, and I think that it's important that members, when they accuse persons of violating House rules, actually read what House rules say. And I'm going to refer you, Mr. Acting Speaker, to Standing Order 179A8. And it's very simple. And it says that a minister or junior minister may take an oral question as notice to be answered orally at the next day meeting, but where any reserved answer requires a lengthy statement, the statement shall be given under statements by the minister or junior minister at the next day of meeting. The honourable member put forward an oral question that required a long response, and I followed standing orders and gave him that response, and the honourable member was clearly able to ask questions on that, which he so did. And so, Mr. Speaker, that is the thing. Now, the final thing that I will say to the members of the opposition in following on matters related to health care. Oh my goodness, what's going on? They don't like standing orders now, Mr. Acting Speaker? Okay. Let us keep on going, Mr. Speaker. The final thing which I would say,
Mr. Speaker.
Oh.
Mr. Premier, do you recognize the point of order?
Point of order. Point of order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A number of the comments the Honorable Premier has made has been insulting, and insulting language is against standing orders. So just since he raised it, I'll raise it back. If he could just conduct himself in a Premier-like manner.
Mr. Acting Speaker, unfortunately, the honourable member has nothing to come back with, so he'll come with some, I don't even know what that is. But let me continue, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I thought I'd help. It's called a point of order. Yeah.
Do you recognize the point of order?
Point of order.
Yeah, what is your point of order, honourable member?
He's insulting, Mr. Speaker.
Is that in the standing orders?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to continue, Mr. Acting Speaker. The final thing that I will say is that I enjoy the sound and fury that comes from the opposition benches. But I will also...
I couldn't hear you. Say that again.
I enjoy the sound and fury that may come from the opposition benches. But I will say, as I did the last time when they raised matters of health care, I hope that they keep that energy. Because when the bill does come to the House, I don't want them to go around and say, oh my goodness, you're going to, do this and the penalties are too harsh and we don't want doctors and insurance companies to go ahead and submit information so we can actually make principled decision making and actual decision making as they did last time. So I just remind them, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Acting Speaker, for them to keep that energy, because when it comes, I'm sure they will find a reason to say, well, but. So the reality is, Mr. Speaker, that when these particular matters come, I sincerely hope that they will keep their energy. Nonetheless, Mr. Speaker, I wish everyone a wonderful weekend, and I think that is all the business of which I have for today.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. Honourable members, we'll see you next time. Thank you for an enjoyable day. Thank you to the listening public, and the House is now adjourned.
Bermuda Live on YouTube. Subscribe now.
Sorry. Adjourned until the next meeting. 10th of July. The 10th of July. The House is adjourned until the 10th of July.